everybody and welcome back to this trip back in time through the history of Total War Warhammer. This series of videos giving you insights into the history of the game and how each DLC and major update impacted it and where exactly they are now. This week we're going to take a look at one of the strangest additions to the game, the Call of the Beastmen. But first, this video's got a sponsor and its name is Dragon City. If you're not aware, Dragon City is a free-to-play mobile game available on both Android and iOS. In the game, you can collect over 1,000 different dragons to build up your very own dragon empire. You can also breed your dragons to create new ones, which you can hatch and then feed to get them to grow and evolve. Once they are ready, you can train your dragons to take them into battle and level them up so that they become more powerful. There are also several different PvP game modes that let you fight against your friends and other dragon masters. If you want to check it out, then hit the first link in the description, and as a special gift to you, you'll get 15,000 food, 30,000 gold, and 10 gems. Huge thanks to Dragon City for sponsoring this video, and now let's get into the history of Total War Warhammer, the Call of the Beastmen. The Call of the Beastmen was released on the 28th of July, so just over 2 months after the release of Warhammer 1. The DLC included the Beastmen faction that were available to play in the Grand Campaign, as well as their standalone An Eye for an Eye campaign, 2 legendary lord choices, and of course the whole roster available for multiplayer. Their faction mechanics included a variation of the Horde introduced with the Warriors of Chaos, with the core differences being the Beastmen could stand next to each other, not take any attrition. They could also utilize different movement stances in the form of the Beast Paths, the Hidden Encampment, and the Move and Ambush. Yes, before the Skaven had the most broken stance known to man, the Beastmen had it first. They also had a similar mechanic to Greenskins in the form of the Bestial Rage mechanic. This summoned an army to follow your main one upon reaching a max level of rage. Finally, they had the Darkmoon, which essentially was just a dilemma every few turns that granted bonuses at the cost of some trade-offs. The standalone campaign was something that would continue into only one other DLC for Total War Warhammer, the Realm of the Wood Elves. The campaign was basically just a tiny map where you ran around grinding until you could take out Toddy. It was just a map full of Empire factions, which would have been much more fun if you could have played as the Empire on the opposite side, but as it stands, it wasn't a very good or engaging campaign. Right out the gate, people were somewhat passionate in their feelings. To be fair, most people actually quite liked the faction, since they had a fun roster and a rapid, chaotic campaign. However, people were incredibly unhappy with the small roster, reskin mechanics from Greenskins and Chaos, the tiny standalone campaign, and most of all, the expensive price. Interestingly, they continued with this pricing for further DLC factions such as the Tomb Kings and the Vampire Coast, and the complaints about price were quickly forgotten. This is probably because, unlike the Beastmen, the Vampire Coast and the Tomb Kings are actually good. And also the gradual rising cost of video games causing a £15 DLC to not actually look that bad, which is it's cringe more than anything else. In December of 2016, alongside the Wood Elf DLC, Morga was added as the third legendary lord, alongside Harpies being available to the faction, and it didn't really change anything. He was just another legendary lord in a terrible faction soon to be trapped in the past. He was probably the best lord choice back then, but still, being the best turd still means you're a turd. However, on the 14th of July this year, everything changed when the Silence and the Fury DLC was released, and with it came a new legendary lord in the form of Taurox the Brass Bull. Alongside this, the Beastmen also got a number of new units, but more importantly than any of that, they got a rework, and it didn't just make them viable. It made them unstoppable. Their old mechanics were gone, and they were now a force that all should fear and that few could survive, let alone stop. I've already talked about their new mechanics at length on the channel, but to sum them up as quickly as possible, they can now place settlements and raise near them to level up their power at a rapid pace. They pay no upkeep or recruitment and are instead based on capacity, meaning they can build armies at an outstanding rate. The new legendary lord can literally fight and move multiple times per turn as long as he keeps fighting and winning. And with a roster and a faction like this, winning isn't something that's exactly challenging. Basically, they were back in a very big way. As the game stands today, they are still in an extremely powerful state, and Taurox was crowned my strongest legendary lord in the game, which truly shows how far they have come, from the faction that got left behind and were absolutely the worst faction in the game, to one that leaves nothing behind but death and ruin. And that concludes this brief look into the history of Total War Warhammer, the Call of the Beastmen. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of the Beastmen when they came out, and what you think of them today. If you enjoyed this video at any point, be sure to leave it a like, it really does help out the channel a lot, and if you want to see more content like this, be sure to subscribe so that you never miss a video. One more thank you to Dragon City for sponsoring this video. If you want to check them out, click the first link in the description. While you're down there, also be sure to check out COLONELDAMNEDERS.store, got all sorts of cool designs, and you'll be sure to find something that you like. I'd also like to thank all supporters of the channel on the YouTube membership program, as well as on Patreon and on Twitch. In particular, it's your boy LC, for the wonderful support at the Unclean Ones tier. I really can't thank you enough. One more time, thank you all so very much for watching, and for now, I've been Colonel Damneders, and I will see you next turn.